feel like we can run the table. I really do. I think the offense is starting to click a little bit more. We just got to put together a game where we're consistent from the first snap to the last. We've been, I think, getting closer to that. We've really been clicking at times in the last few games, but I just feel like it just takes one. We get one under our belts, things might start rolling for us, and we can run the table.
Run the table. How about it? They've lost 4 straight, and even with a victory tonight, they would remain 2 games behind the division-leading Lions. Max, will the Packers beat the Eagles tonight on Monday Night Football?
I don't think they will. I think people are forgetting how good the Eagles looked early in the season, and I realize that when Lane Johnson's suspension kicked in, they fell apart. They fell apart. They're much more vulnerable as a result. However, they're at home, and the Packers' defense has given up 30 points in 4 straight games for the first time since 1953. That's pre-Lombardi. They've given up 40 points in consecutive games for the first time since 1952. The Packers' defense allowed Mariota to put up a 97 QBR and Kirk Cousins to put up a 94 QBR. Their defense is atrocious, and therefore, the Lane Johnson absence means much less, and I think Carson Wentz in this game will show again what he showed early in the season, that he is a special talent in spite of not having that protection on the O-line.
Yeah, he may be a special talent, but he needs special help around him. When you look at the wide receiver position at this particular point, they are struggling on the outside. Now, I've been waiting for Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck to be a major part in this offense. That's what a West Coast offense is all about, establishing that tight end and then working your way outside. But when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense, the thing that I worry about is they have no running back. Matthews will be out this game. Now you're relying on Darren Sproles and Smallwood to run the football.
Sproles?
Yeah, but you're going to give a 35-year-old running back 20 carries and Darren Sproles? No.
Every time they give him the ball, anytime the Giants play the Eagles and they don't throw it to Sproles in the flat, or they don't give it to Sproles, I think as a Giants fan, thank God they didn't give it to Sproles.
Westbrook killed the Giants too. So that's out of this
Sproles
this
is a
conversation.
bad dude, even at this age.
So is Westbrook. But the whole thing about it, you need a pounder for a guy like Carson Wentz. Now, somebody to establish the interior part of the running part so that now the play-action game plays a major part. But let's go to the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're not talking about what Green Bay has on offense because they are powerful on offense. Lack of run game, yes. But now you have to stop Jordy Nelson. You have to stop Randall Cobb. You have to stop Adams. You have guys on the outside that can become a problem, especially playing against the Philadelphia Eagles, where their secondary has been exposed over the last couple of weeks. They need to get pass rush on Aaron Rodgers and be able to bring him down. But the way I worry about this game, and I'll be at the game, they're inducting Merrill Reese and Jeremiah Trotter into the Hall of Fame, so I will be there. And the thing that I worry about this particular game is what Philadelphia Eagles team will show up. Will it be the last 7 games, or will it be the first 3 games? The things about this particular football team is everyone jumped on that bandwagon early on in the beginning because it was a rookie quarterback. He was playing well. Everybody around him was making plays. Defense was one of the best in the league. Now, all of a sudden, things change. Is it going to be the late type of Philadelphia Eagles team that we've seen with turnovers and things of that nature start to create themselves? Because that gives more opportunity for Green Bay.
A couple of things I want to say. Glad you brought them brothers up. Congratulations. They deserve it. The voices of the Philadelphia Eagles, they've done a phenomenal job for many, many years. Both very, very well deserving. Having said all of that, let's get back to the Eagles because you've echoed points that I've made on numerous occasions on this show. Their wide receiver is a problem. Okay, now Ryan Matthews is not going to be out. They're the 27th ranked offense against with the pass. Why? Because Carson Wentz doesn't have anybody to throw it to. That's really what it comes down to. Jordan Matthews can play. We know that Sproles can still get it done, but really as a pass catcher out of the backfield as opposed to an obvious runner. So you don't have a bona fide runner. The Eagles' defense, I think, are behind the 8 ball because they don't have much help because their offense isn't giving it to them. That's the problem. That was the problem with Chip Kelly last year. We've learned. Personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles is not the issue. Malcolm Jenkins and the crew, they can obviously play. The bottom line is this. Because the offense can't get anything done and you've got guys out there an exorbitant amount of minutes, it's exposing the defense more like similar to last year when Chip Kelly was there, than it did earlier in this season when, in terms of pace of play, you know, they were slower than almost everybody else. Then we take this into consideration. This guy Aaron Rodgers that we keep going off about, this guy Aaron Rodgers that hasn't been himself, this guy Aaron Rodgers that simply can't get it done. 25 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions, QBR 72. Numbers. You know, all I'm saying to you is
he's
this.
Still a bad dude.
He's still a bad boy. The problem with Green Bay, that secondary. I watched them against the Redskins.
Everybody's hurt.
I'm just saying, I know that. But I'm just saying.
But that's the reality.
Donovan, listen, guys are hurt. But these are NFL players. Gunter, Goodman, and I could not believe how bad they were against the Redskins. Hyde, I was like this, my God, they're horrible. I mean, it was one of those things where you just found yourself as a neutral observer, because you know you're not a diehard fan of either team. You were like this. Damn,
so doesn't that make, that's my point, that makes the Eagles' skills position players better than they should be.
But their skill position players haven't appeared to be very skilled.
They can't exploit that secondary?
I'm just saying, we don't know. I'm just saying, we really don't know.
Listen, I feel like they can't. They're not as bad as that secondary.
Donovan brought up Zellick and Ertz, and he's right about that, because Brett Zellick and Zach Ertz can play. What the hell has happened to them this year? I don't know. Max, I don't know what has happened to them. I expected the Eagles to have a high-powered offense because of those two.
Offenses get healthy against the Green Bay defense. That's my point. They get healthy, and you're right. The defense is exposed because in a pass-happy league, which this is, I don't care how good your secondary is. If you keep getting shots, you're going to start to win.
It could happen.
That offense could exploit the Packers.
It could happen, but I got to see it.
He can't turn the football over in this particular game.
That's right. It could happen, but I got to see it.
Maybe they'll play inspired with you in the house.
That's not for like a championship ring ceremony, is it? It's not a Super Bowl ring ceremony.
Wow, you going to go there with
Oh, no, wait, it's
Donovan,
the Eagles.
Go there with
It's the
you've
Eagles.
done a lot more than the
Eagles
rest
made
of
the
us.
playoffs later than the Giants have.
We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Have fun at the game tonight.
Thank you so much.
Stephen A., last week you said the Seahawks were the biggest threat to the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC. Well, yesterday they didn't live up to your expectations, as it was a low-scoring affair when they lost to the Bucs 14-5. Russell Wilson was sacked a season-high 6 times. This is their 3rd straight game this season without a TD. Seattle 2-3-1 on the road, and this was Earl Thomas's first game he's ever missed in his career. Stephen A., are the Seahawks still the biggest threat to the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'm not fazed. Mere bag of shells. It's no big deal. Listen, here's the deal. When you got teams like the Seattle Seahawks that have the kind of character that they have, getting punked this late in the season actually ends up being a good thing, because their pride kicks in, that bravado, that machismo, they say, and they raise up and respond to such challenges. They got punked yesterday. They got beat up, beat down, smacked around. Russell Wilson, it talks about here, our producer extraordinaire David Sabino. Let's give him some love post-Thanksgiving. I mean, he had enough love on Thanksgiving. See how big that boy is.
Sabino's the best. Sabino's the best.
I'm just saying, he's a big boy.
Put him out there like that, man.
This is all love. It's all love. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. He appreciates it. Here's the deal. You know.
Let me tell you something. If you, the great researchers are always fat guys because they're sitting there by the computer.
Fat, you guys.
They're sitting there by the computer.
He's not
They're sitting by the computer doing research.
See, you crossed the line. I said he's a big boy. I didn't say fat.
Yeah,
see what I'm saying? I said big boy. But that's the deal. David, that's Max. That's not me. Here's the deal.
Love you, Dave.
All right?
I can't.
Russell Wilson pressured on a career high 27 of his 45 dropbacks. That's 60%. He couldn't breathe all night long. They were all over him. What was he on third downs? Like 2 or 7, sacked 3 times on third downs. It was a long night for him. And you just look at them offensively. 5 points, only 151 yards passing. Your leading rusher was Russell Wilson, who ran for 80 yards. Other than that, Rawls is something wrong with it. You better get. I'm telling you, Christian Michael knows what's coming back. Rawls gonna be on the bench.
Banged up O-line, spent the least amount of money on that offensive line.
I know that, but still in all, when you've got these other guys at certain junctures of the season that have stepped in, Rawls is gonna have to figure that out. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Tampa surprising.
Right.
Give their defense a lot of love and credit.
And Jameis.
All right, and Jameis. But the flip side is that Seattle got to get themselves together offensively, and it starts with that offensive line they're going to have to figure out. I believe they will.
The thing that I worried about Seattle, and this has been 4 weeks now, we talked about it on my show, McNabb and Custer, 10 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m.,
That's a radio show we're talking
radio
about?
show, channel 80.
10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
So you don't have to look at the camera.
Just in
channel
case.
80. Got it.
That's all right. I just had to look back and give that eye. You got to throw that eye at them.
Channel,
people, you know, they're watching.
Dancing with the Stars coming up next.
Yeah, you might want to tune in. You can get a great insight for the show. But when I look at when I look at the Seattle Seahawks, the thing I worry about is not about Russell Wilson because I think he's getting healthier and we've seen what he can do if he has to tote the ball. But it's the running game, the lack of running game. Precise was a guy that all of a sudden he came out of nowhere. He's hurt now. You talk about Rawls coming back. He's coming off of injury of the last 2 weeks. He still has to get the rust off of him. So now you're relying so much on Russell Wilson to do it all when you haven't heard much from Baldwin or Kurz. All of a sudden, Jimmy Graham is getting targeted more than 10 or 12 times in a game. So they have to be able to open that offense up. But when I look at the offensive line, they've been struggling all season. You can always say that Russell Wilson's not healthy. Well, if you don't have a healthy quarterback, that means he's a pocket passer. So offensive line has at least given him some time to be able to dissect the defense and go through his reads. But defensively was the one that I was really in question. How do you allow Jameis, Martin, and Mike Evans to come at you that way in that first half and play pretty much a flawless first half versus this defense? Yeah, Earl Thomas isn't in there, but Cam Chancellor's back. Avril's in there. Richard Sherman is still there. I know Michael Bennett is on his way back. But this isn't the same team that we've seen over the last couple of years. It's a good thing that they lost, yes, at this particular point, because I thought it would have been a good thing if Dallas would have lost to Washington so that they can kind of recalibrate and come back together and understand going forward what they need to do. But I'm just a little worried going forward of what they're going to do in order to run the football. Marshawn Lynch plays so much of a big dividend for them because he was able to tote it on the first and second down. But they need somebody to carry the load, at least 15 carries, strong carries, to average 3.5, maybe 4.5 yards a pop.
I'm glad you brought up Marshawn Lynch because they're really missing beast mode. And usually with teams that have star running backs, people overestimate the impact of the running back because it has to do more with the offensive line. And there are a lot of running backs that are interchangeable in football. Put them behind a good offensive line, they look good. A bad offensive line, not so good. Look at Todd Gurley right now, very talented, but struggling. Beast mode made a big difference. But this is why I think the Seahawks are a legitimate threat to the Cowboys. And it makes me sick, by the way, that we start with the premise that, we just assume it's implicit, right? The Cowboys are the team to beat.
Right.
Like, we are now living in that world, unfortunately.
You're not going to lead into
that's the way it goes.
Giants win and all of a sudden they win the NFC East.
Oh, God, please. All right, anyway, the point is, here's the problem with the Cowboys. They can't get pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
That's their Achilles heel. I'm not saying it will be their undoing, but if they are to be undone, that will probably be the problem. Now, the Seahawks, the philosophy in Seattle seems to be, we are not going to invest a lot in our offensive line, either in terms of draft picks until very recently or money. We're going to hope that through the course of the season, they play together enough that they develop chemistry and get to be adequate. That was happening until this last game, where Russell Wilson won very good. You know why? He got sacked 6 times because they can't protect him. So that's a problem, unless you're playing against a team that can't get pressure on the other quarterback. Suddenly, the Cowboys are going to make the Seahawks offensive line better than it is. And to me, more than anything, more than not having Marshawn Lynch there anymore, more than the defense not showing up, as you mentioned, the number one issue with Seattle is the offensive line and their ability to protect Russell Wilson, even more than block for the run.
Let me interject.
If the Cowboys can't really exploit that, the Seahawks could beat them.
Here's the deal. Looking at the Seahawks schedule, you realize they only have 2 road games left? Mm-hmm. At Green Bay, ain't that tough these days. At San Francisco, forgive me. I don't think I should be too worried. You got home games against Carolina, the Rams, Arizona. Those are divisional games, so we'll give it its due respect and recognize it could potentially be tough. But if you're the Seattle Seahawks and you've got your horses and they're in that lineup and on that field, you should beat 4 of the next 5 opponents that you're going up against. So we're talking about an 11-3-1 season, a number 2 seed in the NFC, and essentially a championship game in the NFC championship game, assuming the Cowboys live up to the hype and make it there. The Cowboys hosting an NFC championship game with Seattle being the ones to visit. I don't think that that's something that anybody can ignore. I love what I'm seeing from Atlanta. Their offense is high-powered, no doubt. The defense is playing better. But you think about they're Oakland and they're the Oakland Raiders of the NFC. And so that's what we're talking about here. I still think it comes down to Seattle.